Many people are afraid of the idea of nuclear energy because they don't understand it. Nuclear power is the use of radioactive material to produce heat, to make steam, to turn a turbine, and to generate electricity. One of the main concerns people have about nuclear power is the radiation. In fact, everything around us gives off some amount of radiation. Everything from the food we eat to the people we hang around. So let us put some of this into perspective. Radiation is measured in sieverts, and a lethal dose of radiation is 8 sieverts. Now, in a single instance, a regular banana will give off 0.1 microsieverts, and an average human will give off 0.05 microsieverts while they sleep. So if someone were to eat 80 million bananas at one instance, or sum up all the radiation their spouse gives off while they sleep for 160 million nights, and gather all that radiation and expose themselves to it, this would equal a lethal dose of radiation. Now let's compare what a worker is exposed to while working at a nuclear power plant. The maximum allowable radiation that someone who works at a power plant can get in 1 year before they are no longer allowed to work near radiation is 50 millisieverts. This is 1/160th, or about 6.25 microsieverts of a lethal amount. A nuclear power operator is not allowed to be exposed to any more radiation in 1 year than if he were to jump into a swimming pool of 500,000 bananas. The radiation in a nuclear power plant is very well protected and only causes problems when there is a meltdown or disaster.
The biggest drawback to nuclear power is managing the waste. The nuclear fuel cores used to make heat in a nuclear power plant can remain radioactive for decades, and all that material must be safely stored. The storage is expensive and requires constant monitoring. The most frightening drawback of nuclear energy is the risk of meltdown. This occurs when the fuel cores heat beyond control. This can literally melt components in the plant that shield the workers and outside environment from the radiation in the fuel. The most famous and fatal example of nuclear meltdown occurred in Chernobyl, Ukraine on April 26, 1986. One of the energy cores in the plant overheated and exploded during a performance test, killing 31 people. The explosion released 300 sieverts, almost 40 times the lethal amount. Along with the 31 people killed within a short time of the blast, another 237 were diagnosed with illnesses related to the accident, and potentially thousands more were affected in some way by the radiation cloud released from the explosion. As seen with the Chernobyl accident, the impacts of radioactive material on the environment can be extremely damaging and last for decades. Chernobyl is still uninhabitable to this day because of the residual radiation. While the safety protocols and advances in technology have improved since 1986, there's always some risk of meltdown, even today. Nuclear energy is extremely cost-effective. For example, it costs about 8 cents to produce a kilowatt-hour of electricity in a nuclear plant, compared to 11 cents in a coal plant, 18 cents on a wind farm, and 40 cents from a solar plant. This graph from the World Nuclear Association shows the rising cost of electricity from oil against the stable cost of nuclear-produced electricity. Nuclear energy is also very clean. According to the Nuclear Energy Institute, nuclear energy facilities avoided 570 million metric tons of carbon dioxide in 2012 across the United States. This is nearly as much carbon dioxide as is released from 100 million cars, which is roughly all U.S. passenger cars. The decay of a single U-235 atom releases approximately 200 million electron volts. That may not seem like much, but there are lots of uranium atoms in a pound of uranium. So many, in fact, that a pound of highly enriched uranium, as used to power a nuclear submarine, is equal to about 1 million gallons of gasoline. This shows one of the greatest advantages of nuclear energy. But are the impacts of its waste and potential disasters worth that risk?